What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction and I share my life with you. My name is Nicole and I'm an addict, and my sobriety date is July 13th of 2015, and this is my channel, Real Talk Recovery. Here on Real Talk Recovery, you guys, I share experience, strength, and hope from my own addiction recovery story. I share about my taper journey on Suboxone. I share about my everyday life being a mom, and I just love helping people. It's a passion of mine. I literally do this every single day because it helps me stay sober. But today it's not about me. Today I'm going to be having a special guest on. Her name is Kayla, and she's been on my channel before. She has her very own channel called Street Life to Housewife, and I'm going to link it in the chat so that way you guys will be able to find her. She has a really inspiring story. She has literally turned her life around, you guys. You know that saying, started from the bottom, now she's here. That's the story of Kayla. She has been down through there. She has been through so much. She has been through CPS, having her children taken away, and she just currently had her case closed. Her case was open for 4 years. In that 4 years, she gave birth to two babies, had those babies taken away, had them given back, had them taken away. And now she has finally got her case with Child Protective Services closed. So last time she was on the channel, she was really, we were like halfway through her story, and she was telling us about how bad it got in her addiction, what happened, and um, a lot of the craziness that she went through. So we're just going to pick up where we left off when she gets here. So let me look and see who all's here and say hi to everybody. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Melissa. Hey, Stay Free. Hey, Crystal. Thanks for being here, y'all. Thanks for being here. Hey, Krista. Hey, Krista, how have you been doing? I haven't seen you in a while, girl. I just haven't seen you comment in a while, but I'm glad you're here. So y'all will love Kayla's cool. She's cool as hell. I just linked her channel in the comments. Hey, Jeff. It's called From Street Life to Housewife, which I think that's pretty damn cool. Here it is again. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Junior. What's up, Junior? Where have you been? Oh, good deal. I'm excited too. Hey, Ash. Ash, I missed you too. Where have you been? Hey, DJ Smiley. What's up? Hey, Donnie Darko. What's up, everybody? I see everybody coming in. Thanks for coming in, y'all. How about this while we're waiting for Kayla to get here? How's everybody doing in their sobriety? Is there anybody that's struggling with anything? Hey, Botanical Romance. Aw, thanks. I really appreciate that. Shout out Botanical Romance. She just dropped $5. $5 make me holla. Ow! I really appreciate that. Junior, what's your good news? Go ahead and share it with us while we're waiting on Kayla. Whenever I used to work, I used to wait tables and bartend, you guys. And whenever I used to wait tables and bartend, y'all would have loved me back in the day. I was such a talker, just like I am now. Only I was like helping people that were drunk, so it was the good times. I just barely missed the last one because of work and someone special I met in this chat. Oh, that's awesome, Junior. Thanks to everyone help on here. Ash, anytime. You know we love you. I just hadn't seen you in a while, and when you commented today, I got excited. What's up, Mama G? You guys, I've just been honestly, this is what I've been doing today. I've been doing laundry all day. I vacuumed, I cleaned the kitchen, I mopped the floors, I cleaned the toilets. And next, after this live stream, I have to do a patron only live stream. And then after that, I got to put Nate in the bath time. And then after that, I'm going to bed. I found some more dope in my shop this morning. I thought I got it all out, but still finding it. Damn, Stay Free. That's crazy, man. I've been there though. I used to hide stuff like that too. Hey guys, sorry I could only stop by for a bit earlier. It's okay, Pistol Grip. What's up, Corey? Hey Ian, what's up? Come on in, everybody. Come on in. Have a seat. Have a seat. This week is going to be a more kind of like consistent week for me. Where's everyone watching from? We got Florida, we got Virginia. I'm excited to be here. This is a family. Let's all pitch in and go to Hawaii. I know that's right, girl. Take me to Hawaii. Tennessee, Arkansas. Who did you meet in my chat, Junior? I need to know this. What's up, Merk? Ohio. Hey, Des, what's up? Is it you or is it your kid? Arizona, Houston, Texas. Oh my God, stay free. You got to do what you got to do. Utah, wow. I know that. Ian, where are you at? Ian's in Ireland? Or, yeah, Ireland, right? England. No, the UK, I know that. Boston, Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas, meeting Mama G. She's up from Dallas. Read my last message. Okay, hold on. Good job, Stay Free. I'm proud of you, man. Good job. For real. That's hard to do. Hey, Destiny. I see you. That's what I thought. Destiny. Oklahoma, Washington State, Ohio, UK. Damn, y'all. Great Britain. That's it. Sorry, Ian. You know I love you. I'm so happy to have all of you guys here. You have no idea how much I love this. I love this. Oh, here's our girl. Here's our girl. All right. Hold on, baby girl. I'm putting you on the screen with me.
Okay. Oh, I gotta get this.
What's up?
Hey! Hold on. Try and get this going. I have like a little thing my baby's dad got for me for. Whoa, I look bright. Hold on.
I look white compared to you. Look how white I look.
Bro, I just put some bronzer on. That's all. I ain't that dark. Look.
The other day, I went to my little boy's school, and one of the girls that I'm friends with, my son is friends with her son. I walked in, and she goes, "Wow, Nicole, you look so tan. Where have you been?" And I said, "Oh, it's just Anastasia Beverly Hills bronzer and tawny."
Yeah, that'll do it.
You know?
That will do it.
So I was telling everybody, last time you were here, we left off. I can't even remember the last story you were here. You left off where you got the bone infection.
Right. I knew we were somewhere around there. I wasn't sure if we had got to where I made it in the hospital or if
you got into the hospital and your man was coming back and forth to visit you. And why don't you start where you started? You went into the hospital, because that's where we left off at. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah, and that's this is a story. I ended up figuring out that after all that time I had spent not going to the hospital, I figured out when I got to the hospital. That's right, I remember this. My baby's dad had told me, Kayla, if you can't walk by Monday, you have to go to the hospital. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk, and I tried to walk over that weekend. I got up on a walker and leaned against the wall. And I remember taking one step with his niece and nephew holding me up.
Uh-huh.
And when I took that one step, it literally felt like my hip bone was breaking. Like I could feel it breaking. so I was like, I can't do it. And so Monday came and I went to the hospital, and when I got to the hospital, the doctors, like, when you go to the ER and stuff, it usually takes a while, but the minute they did my blood work, it was like they rushed me back, and they said I was septic, like I had sepsis, and that things were not looking good. And so
Tell everybody why you couldn't walk. Tell them what we're talking about. What had happened to your leg right there?
okay, yeah, well, it was, I was shooting up in my femoral, it's kind of in the curve of your leg, and that's where I would use. And there were so many times I had used there for years, and there were so many times that my legs would go numb, or different things would happen. But I had what I thought was I had pinched my sciatic nerve or something, because I had fallen asleep on a toilet. And when I woke up, I never felt my legs again. It was like my legs were just gone. But it wasn't like they were only gone. They were numb, but there was severe pain in my hip area going on. So, and I stayed at home in our hotel for months, thinking that this was just going to go away, and it just didn't. So I made it to the hospital. They said they ended up telling me that there was a infection in my bone, in my spine and my pelvis area.
Damn.
But it was a bone infection. It was called osteomyelitis, and it was, so that was the main thing that was going on. And I also had these internal abscesses that normal people, or people who usually will get a abscess, it will be like somewhere on their arm or leg or something, and they'll get an abscess. It'll be right here at the surface, and it'll get to the point where it needs to be lanced, and it will, and that would be the normal process. But for me, because I was shooting in such a a tricky area, the abscess went inside of my body, and it landed on my pelvis bone, my psoas muscle, which is the basically your hip flexor muscle in the back of your pelvis. You can't really get to it from either way. It's kind of just in the middle. So I had like numerous internal abscesses, and then this bone infection that was in my spine and my pelvis bone, right? So they, at this point, they thought I had all of that. They also thought at that point that I had MRSA. And so the talk was that I was going to have my left leg amputated at the hip, right? And I remember my mom was there. My grandma, I think, was there. And this is when they were telling me that I was going to have my leg amputated. And at this point in my addiction and my life and everything, I was dope sick, and I just did not want to be dope sick. That's all I cared about. I'm sick. That's why I didn't want to go to the damn hospital, is because I knew I get it that there's stuff going wrong in my body, but my main problem is my addiction. And I was trying to scream this to these nurses and doctors, and it's my addiction. This is what is overheading all of this, and I kept begging them, please, can we treat my addiction? I didn't care what it was going to be with, but let's treat my addiction, because all that my mind and body is telling me to do is to run, to leave this damn hospital because I'm sick, right? And at this hospital I was at, there's different like chains of hospitals out here in Washington. There's different chains, and some believe in treatment of your addiction, and others want to just ignore it, right? So the one I was at, it was their belief that if somebody comes in and they are dependent on a drug, they just stop. They don't give any narcotics. They don't give any, what's the word I'm thinking of?
No maintenance medication, nothing. They're not going to
Yeah,
give you not even pain meds because you were in pain, right?
exactly. Nothing. So, and I was just like, I couldn't understand how they thought this was going to help my addiction, right? I get it that, okay, let's take the drugs away, but they didn't, I don't think they realized how powerful my addiction was. Although I couldn't walk, I was inches away from rolling out of that hospital in a wheelchair. I told them, I said, I don't care about a leg. I can lose a leg. I don't want to be dope sick, right? My
Right.
mom got so emotional and she was just like, how has my daughter got to this point, right? Because I would have willingly given my leg to not be dope sick at that moment.
Right.
And my mom, my mom brought it back. She was like, you like she still gets emotional about that. And it's hard for her to understand, but I remember that was where I was at in my addiction. So eventually, Eric saw that. Oh god, thought I heard kids out. I was like, oh no. So eventually Eric saw that, okay, let's just give Kayla what she needs and we'll figure it out going forward. So I was able to get well, but this is where the almost disconnect came, because at this point I was dependent on Eric to keep me well, and Eric didn't want to keep me sick, so it was a tug of war of like, what is the right thing to do in this moment, right?
Right.
um he was able to get me well then, and but then I had a doctor who came in and said, look, we don't have the ability to treat everything that she is going through here, and it will take at least a month for us to transfer her to the main hospital here, which is Harborview, which is in Seattle, and it's like the best hospital here. But we don't have the ability to transfer her and all of this. So the doctor said to my grandma, um, he recommends that they sign me out against medical advice and
Uh-huh.
drive me to the hospital in Seattle, because if I drive there and I show up, I will then become their patient, right?
Right.
I didn't know it at that time, but I knew that hospital was going to be more. I was hopeful that that hospital was going to be more fair to me, right? As far as
Right.
addiction went. So, we signed out of that hospital, and this was like after 2 weeks I was in that hospital, and I was able to stay well, but I was still sick a lot of the time, is what I remember. But so we drove up there, and I remember Eric was like, look, Kayla, this has got to be the last time I do this. Like, I can't, because it was just, I was staying sick.
What was he doing? Like bringing you heroin and shooting you up in the bed?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would shoot myself up, but yeah, he was bringing it for me. And
And none of the people in the hospital like even thought anything about it, or they didn't know.
I think they were pretty aware. I mean, we were not sneaky by any means, but the thing was, it was like there was nothing they could really do.
Right.
There was no, I never, at that hospital, I never heard anything from them about my use in the hospital or anything. They just, because at that hospital, I wasn't being treated. I was just, they had me on hold and they were waiting to transfer me to a different hospital, right? So
Okay.
it was really about just keeping me, they were just checking on me every couple of hours, and there was no real treatment plan with them. So I didn't have an actual doctor that I was seeing every day. It was just whoever was there would come. And I was on like the transfer wait list, which was going to take a month, right?
Oh,
And
okay.
that's why the doctor told me, like, look, this is going to take a month, and that's precious time we could use. So take her out of here and just drive her, because the transfer thing here isn't quick in any mean at any rate. So we ended up driving up there, and Eric was like, look, Kayla, it's the last time I'm gonna do this with you. And we had an idea. We had been told that at this hospital they would give me either methadone or Suboxone. We had been told that from everybody, but I had never been there, so I didn't know for sure, right? We just
Uh-huh.
were hoping. And so it was a relief. We got there and I had to wait in the ER, and that was the when I got high for the last time for a little bit. And so we got high in their bathroom, and I made it in there, and it was such a relief because the first thing the nurse said to me was, you know, I had done, all of the questionnaire and everything I needed to. And the first real thing she said to me was, "So you're using?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "So what was the other hospital doing for your addiction?" And I
Mhm.
said, "Nothing. They weren't doing anything." And she said, "Oh my God. Okay, well, that's what we're going to do now. So do you want to be on methadone or Suboxone?" Basically. And if I chose Suboxone at that point, I was going to have to wait 24 hours, 48 hours or whatever to let the drugs go out of my system. So I chose methadone, right?
Uh-huh.
And she said, I had been at that point, I had been on the methadone program before. And so I had told her that, and I told her, my last dose was 150 milligrams of methadone. That's what my most recent dose used to be. And within a day, I was back on 150 milligrams of methadone. It was like
Mhm.
just that easy. I was back on methadone. And so in the beginning, when I was there, and right when I got to the hospital, so we got me on methadone, and it was night and day, right? It was like,
Yeah.
and I was 40 minutes away from my hometown. So it was very easy for me to get clean, right?
Yeah.
And we one of the first things we figured out was that I didn't have MRSA. I wasn't going to have to lose my leg. MRSA is MRSA, and what I
Yep.
had was MSSA. So it was like one like molecule off, but it was enough for me to save a leg, right?
Thank
So
God.
yeah, and so we did that. We found that out that I wasn't going to lose my leg. I got stable on methadone. I started IV antibiotics. They got a PICC line in. I started IV antibiotics. I started working with a um, what was it called? Internal medicine or one of the teams to see if I was going to need surgery to remove
Mhm.
these abscesses or if the IV antibiotics were going to be enough. And what we came to when I met with the surgeons was that with the placement of the internal abscesses, it was in such a weird position that they were willing to run 12 weeks of IV antibiotics to see if we could get rid of it from the IV antibiotics, right? So
Uh-huh.
um, so we were not going to do the surgery. We were just keeping an eye on them. I would go for MRIs every week, and at this point, I still couldn't walk though. And so that was my start in the hospital, and I did the 12 weeks of the antibiotics. And once I finished those 12 weeks, and I stayed sober in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
um, and I was supposed to, Eric, at this point, I had this resentment towards Eric for a long time because I didn't understand why he would not come visit me in the hospital when I was in Seattle, right? I felt like, what? Why is he not coming to see me? And like now
Right.
I get it. I understand that he was like, he kept having to bring me drugs that once he saw I was stable on methadone, he didn't want me to, and I would have
Yeah.
expected him to bring me something, right?
Right.
So, so I spent a lot of time up there, and I was doing well. And then I made it to the 12-week mark, and they said I needed another 8 weeks of IV antibiotics, but they were willing to let me go to respite care, which
Oh
is
wow.
like a hospital, or it's a apartment complex across the street from the hospital, and it's
Uh-huh.
for people who still need care but can move around and don't need to be in the hospital anymore, right? It's like a
Right.
outpatient type thing. So they had a room for me over there, and I was still hooked up to my PICC line. and I was supposed to be there, sleep there, but I was able to move around and go here and there during the day. And so when I went to get released to respite care, the night before I got released, Eric came to visit and brought meth with him. So, um, so I ended up getting high, and the nurses could tell that I was high. I believe that they could tell that I was. I mean, it was clear as day that I
I'm
was high.
sure.
Yeah, and I'm shooting it, so I'm just like, and I'm sucking up.
Feared.
Yeah, it was a mess. So they ended up saying, we're not going to let you out we're going to let you out in a day. They kept me an extra day, right? And so Eric ended up going back home to Tacoma, and he was going to come out the next day. And when he went back, he ended up getting pulled over and went to jail. So I was by myself, and he was doing a DOC violation. And I went to respite care he left me with meth. So I had meth when I made it to respite care. And I had like enough for I had been sober for, a couple of months. So I was able to make this amount of meth last for 4 or 5 days, right?
Yeah.
And I would
Yeah.
do a shot every day or something because I was, clean pretty much at that point. But so anyways, I made it to respite care, and I ran out of the meth I had, and I wanted to get more, but I didn't know anybody in Seattle. I'm from Tacoma. I didn't know anybody in Seattle. So I during the day I got on the bus and I went back to Tacoma, and went right back to where I left off, which is, on the strip in Tacoma, and going to people's hotel rooms. But I was supposed to be back to respite care that night by like 8 o'clock, or else you get locked out. So I'm in Tacoma, and I'm not paying attention to time, and I'm on a bus, and I end up missing the bus to go back to respite care that night. And I have a PICC line in, and I'm on IV antibiotics. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to stay out here for tonight. And I never went back. I just stayed in Tacoma. I ended up taking I kept my PICC line in, and I was using my PICC line to get high. But, these are.
You were shooting up in your PICC line?
Oh, yeah. I had already been shooting up in my PICC line. Yeah. I mean, why not? It was.
Right. It's easier.
That was where I was using when I first got the meth. It was what made sense to me. It was an open PICC line.
I've seen people do that. I've seen so many people that have been like in your situation where they were in the hospital or they had something serious going on like that, and they did the same thing. Yep. I just think that like when you speak about like being willing to lose your leg and stuff, that it just shows how serious and how powerful addiction is. Like people really need to think about that. Like process that shit. Like you are willing to risk having your leg chopped off at the hip to get high. I was the same way. I was willing to risk my son to get high. That's why he got taken away from me. And a lot of people, they don't understand addiction. They think, why don't you just quit? It's just really not that easy. This is how serious addiction is.
I remember when they offered that, they said that to me, like you're going to lose your leg. And I remember thinking, and I processed it, and I said, okay, a leg, that's fine. I have another leg, right?
Right.
I'll be all right. I'll be okay. I can use crutches. I can use a walker. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. But I cannot bear this feeling, this dope sickness that I'm feeling, and I did not want another minute of it. I would have willingly given my leg to not be sick anymore. It was simple to me. It wasn't even a hard decision,
Right.
And that was the mentality I kept for the duration of my hospital stay, was like, thank you guys for keeping me well. But the minute I got out of there and I missed, and I had to stay out in Tacoma for the night, and I wasn't able to get my dose of meth. That was the other thing I forgot to mention, was that the methadone they were giving me was in pills, right? So I never got out of I got clean on the methadone, but I never got really a recovery mentality because I constantly was shooting my methadone pills. So every day in the morning when they would give me 15 10 milligram methadone pills, I was dumping them in my lap and taking the rest of my pills. And when they would leave, I would shoot my pills in my PICC line. So it was a every day I still was having my ritual of getting high, and so I never got a mentality of I'm clean now, you know?
Right. Oh, I totally,
So
you were still doing the behavior, the addictive
all of it.
behavior.
Yeah,
I
all of
totally
it. And when I
understand.
didn't have any more methadone, I was shooting water or doing, doing just off the wall things that I didn't have give my brain a chance to get clean. So it was automatic when when Eric did come up that I was like, well, what did you bring? What do you have? And when I left the respite care and I had my PICC line, that was a sterile uh, place. Like they were doing a lot to keep my PICC line clean and sterile and everything sterile. But the minute I left, I had no concern of keeping anything clean, right? At
Right.
this point in my life, I already knowingly had Hep C. And so there was no concern of like, I need to keep the spot clean. So after
Right.
a couple days of me using the PICC line, I started noticing that it didn't look so good. We were changing the gauze and the tape and everything every day, but when I left, I wasn't doing any of that. So I noticed it didn't look good, and I probably should not. This it doesn't look good, right? So I took pliers and cut it and tried to take it out. But the problem is that a PICC line is attached to your heart, right? It goes to the artery on your heart. And
Uh-huh.
I knew that. I knew what the risk was, but it was like, I don't know what I was thinking. So I took pliers and tried to cut and pull, but when I pulled, it hurt my chest, right? So I was like, oh no, I can't. Thankfully I stopped
Right.
because I was like, I just told myself, like, look, Kayla, I need to go back. I just need to go back to the hospital. I knew that if you leave a hospital with a PICC line in, they have to call the police and tell the police because you're a risk. It's a huge risk for you to have a PICC line out there in the
Uh-huh.
world for reasons like this that will try and pull it out.
What if you had gotten an infection, girl, in your heart?
Right. Well, I have friends that that's happened to, and that's what they were worried about when I came back was that I had um, things in my blood that showed I might, but it turned out I never did have that infection in my heart. But they were worried about it in the beginning because I had messed with that PICC line so bad. So, I ended up staying out after I had left respite care. I stayed out for like a week, and once I started trying to mess with my PICC line and having that chest pain, I was like, and at this point, people in the streets knew that I probably shouldn't be out there. So I had a bunch of people, Eric was in jail. I had a bunch of dealers who didn't want to sell to me anymore because they were worried I
Right.
was going to die. So
Right.
it finally got to a point, and my family's calling me, like begging me to please come back, please go back. So I ended up going back to the hospital. And immediately they put me in the hospital. They were like, no, screw the respite care. She can't go to respite. They put me back in the hospital and, saw that I had, a bunch of new infection that I had got in the week that I had been out. And they said, now I'm going to need another 8 to 12 weeks of IV antibiotics. So and they kept me in like the basement of the hospital so that I couldn't, they were trying to keep me from using, but they still didn't realize at that point I was using the methadone they were giving me,
Yeah.
and so that's how I was, because they kept wondering how I was keep getting this PICC line infected. It kept getting infected over and over, and it was because I was using it. And so I had made it. I had, advocated for myself to get out of the basement because I was telling them how depressed I was and please put me on a floor where I can have a view. And they did that. They said, let's give her another chance and let's trust her. And So I made it up onto a floor, and I was in a room by myself for a while, and I thought I was doing well because I was only using the methadone they were giving me. But eventually, I remember I was in my room, and a girl got put into my room, and she was at that time she was in a coma, like in an induced coma, and she had arm braces and leg braces. Like she had broken arms and broken legs. But I remember looking at her, and she was asleep. And at this point, I was using a walker and I could get up. And the minute I looked at her, I was like, oh, she's probably got drugs. Like I could just tell by the way she looked. It wasn't like she was hurt. I could just tell. You know how you can tell when people
I know what
use.
you mean, girl.
Yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, she's got something. And sure, so I'm sitting at the edge of my bed waiting for her to wake up, asking her nurse, when is she gonna wake up? Do you know when she's gonna wake up? Not because I was, and sadly, not because I was worried about her, but I knew she had something. So, sure enough, she wakes up and she starts asking me questions like, where am I and what's going on? I told her, I said, they told me that you got in a motorcycle accident with your husband and now you're here. And she was like, oh my God. We started small talk, and eventually she was like, yeah, I think she had called her boyfriend and he was on a different floor, but he was a dealer, right? But she couldn't walk and he couldn't walk. And I could barely walk. I'm with a walker, but I could move.
Right.
So I tell her, I say, tell him I'm coming and I'll go down there. And sure enough, I went down there, and he gave us, meth, and then we were high. It was like we were sick at one point and then we were high. And this went on for, a week or so. And eventually I had been up the whole time. But you know how when you use with somebody and you kind of get irritated with them?
Oh
Like her
yeah.
and I were different kind of people. And I was so like I was trying to I had been in the hospital for long enough to know to try and hide it from these nurses, or else we're going to be screwed, right?
Right.
And so when the nurses were coming in at night, I was like pretending to be asleep, and she was like up coloring and just doing the most. And I told them, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was trying to go to sleep, and I told the nurses, she's bothering me. Please move her out. Like I want my room to myself. And they moved her, right? And but then it was like I put the nurses on to us, like they
Right.
wouldn't have said anything. And then I moved her, and I needed her. So when I went to sleep and woke up, and then I was like, crap, now I got to walk all the way across, and the nurses are going to see me. And it was, anyways, I ended up staying high with this girl for almost the rest of my stay in the hospital. And so this is the inconsistency. It's sad though, because I look back on it, and like my grandma was coming up there to visit me, and she thought I was doing good the whole time, right?
Right.
And she was so proud of me, and she was happy I was in the hospital and I was finally going to get my life together, and we're talking about my kids, and I'm going to call CPS and get my life back together. But I wasn't, that's not how I was living in the hospital. And and that's why I don't think they understood why when I got out of the hospital I went right back to using. But it was
Right.
because when I was in the hospital I never got
You were using the whole time.
I
Yeah.
was using the whole time. And eventually I ended up leaving finally against medical advice for the last time. And I was like a week away from when I was supposed to leave. And they wanted me. I had at the end there, I had tried. I was like, okay, they had caught me with everything, right? They had caught me using the methadone. They had caught me with the meth in my system. They had caught me for everything, right? So they were keeping really close tabs on me, and offering me different routes of treatment. And I had built like a really good bond with my nursing staff, and
Mhm.
I had talked to them about like, methadone works for me, but I always don't feel sober when I use methadone. And So they, offered a different route of treatment, which was Suboxone.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, you know what, let me just try it. And they had set me up with some nurses and a doctor while I was in there. And the plan was when I got out of the hospital, I was going to get on Suboxone. And I ended up leaving early, but the point is, I had met the nursing staff and that doctor, and I had built a relationship with them. They were coming to visit me in the hospital, and so when I did want to get on Suboxone, I knew where to go, right?
Right. Right.
So I never tried Suboxone while I was in the hospital, but I had talked about it and started the process. So, I ended up leaving. I don't remember what the final straw was or why I left early, but it had something to do with me getting high or them not, being in the way of me getting high. It
Right.
got too
Right.
difficult. They caught on to everything and it became too difficult. So, and Eric was in jail, and I can't remember if he had gotten out yet or if I got out first. What if it was like we were close though? And and so I got out of the hospital and I started using again, and my family didn't understand it. Everybody was really disappointed. They thought, I get it now that they had a little bit of hope that I was going to get my stuff together, because they thought in these months I had been at the hospital I was doing well, but I wasn't. So and I just started using right when I got out and was back at it. And my family, they were like, it doesn't make sense to somebody who doesn't understand addiction that you would get so close to death and so close to losing your leg and just go back or not stop at all. But for me, it was no question. It was very simple. Like, this is what I'm doing. And, I didn't feel
I try
at
to
that
explain
moment
it to
that,
people because it's like okay, so I had a similar experience where I went into a coma and I woke up 7 days later with my mom beside me and she's like, "Do you know how long you've been here?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "You've been in a coma for 7 days." And I remember right then all I could think about is it's been 7 days since I've gotten high. I need to get the fuck up out of here because I need
right,
to get one. You know what I
right.
mean? And I was like, "Okay, well, where do I leave? Where do I sign out?"
Yeah, where's the
It's
exit?
because the obsession, addiction is it centers in our mind and it drives a person. That's why, like, when people come and they say, well, addiction is just, it's weak minded people. Addiction is a disease. It's a
Right,
mental illness. It's a disorder. It's a disease of the mind. And it's the obsession of the mind. And so
right,
that's why you would rather lose your leg than sit there and get and stay sober and get better and not lose your leg. That's why I would rather run out of the hospital after being in a coma for 7 days and almost dying. That's
right,
why, because it is the disease of addiction,
right,
and if that doesn't show that it's the disease of addiction and how powerful it is, then I don't know what else does. I can't understand how people don't understand when you see a woman that has a child, the greatest bond and love you can have is with your own child. And when you see a woman who's still using drugs and they have given up their child or they lose their child, that should tell you that's how strong the disease of addiction is.
right,
It's not because that person is bad. It's not because they're a piece of shit. It's not because they're weak minded. It's because their mind is diseased. It's sick. They have a sick mind.
right.
Their whole brain is being held hostage and taken captive by the disease of addiction and by their drugs.
Yeah. And the obsession, I don't know when the obsession to use was lifted, but I remember vividly waking up with this panic and this like, oh my God, if I didn't save something from the night before, waking up and looking around and being like, what am I going to do? What am I going to have to give away? What am I going to have to do or sacrifice to get well or to get drugs or anything, it didn't. There were so many. The desperation to get high is such a dangerous place to be. For me, at least, it was such a dangerous place to be, because at that moment it doesn't matter what kind of self-worth I thought I had. The minute that desperation kicked in, everything went out the window, you know?
Mhm.
And
I know
that's
that's
why
right.
when you know my kids became, you know, when before I had lost Imani to um when I still that it was so hard to I loved her with everything I had, but drugs always took over. I would do everything, and I felt like I did a great I was as did the best I could for her, but that's never going to be enough when drugs come above everything. Like right now in life, I have, both of my girls, and they mean the world to me. I get up hours early so I can get them ready for school and pack their snacks and their lunches and do all of this. And none of that would have ever got to that point. Like I tried my best with her. She was a baby at that time, so it was different. But if drugs, I see people in the community I live in who
Right.
are full, in their addiction and have their children. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, if drugs are in your life, they're going to take over. They, steal, kill, and destroy,
Yeah,
that's
there's
just
no
what
way
happens.
to be a present parent. There's no way to be a parent when you're using drugs. When you're on dope and you're fucked up all the time, that's what I would think. I would think that I was doing a good job, you know? I was like,
Right,
well, I'm cleaning the house all the time. Like I was always
right,
tweaking. So I was like, I have all this energy, but like I wasn't all there. And I remember going into treatment and telling them that I loved my son so much and that I was a good mom, and I remember this counselor looking at me and being like, "No, you're not. You're a piece of
right,
shit. You're not a good mom." And I was
right.
just like
Like
so
what?
pissed off that she told me that. But then
Right,
now that I've been sober for a while, I realized that she was right. She was
right,
right. I mean, maybe I'm not a piece of shit, but I wasn't a good
right.
mother. I wasn't a good mother. There's no way I could have been because I
No,
was under the influence of high powered substances that would literally take me out of my mind, you
right.
know? And so
Yeah,
it's
it
so
was
hard.
very hard. It's hard to because I remember distinctly seeing other people in their addiction with their kids and comparing myself and being like, well, I don't do that, and I am a good mom, and for a long time I didn't understand why my kids were taken and not other people's kids. But the reality is it's it's not that I deserved them, and these people didn't deserve their kids. None of us deserved our kids, and I was just luckily my kids were able to get out of that environment, and sadly other kids aren't able to get out of that environment. And
Will
it
you
took a
tell
while. I
everybody
had
will you
Go
tell
ahead.
everybody what happened recently? Because I was kind of telling them, but you can tell them what happened about your CPS case.
Yeah, and our case got closed after almost 5 years. And it finally got closed, and it is such a life to I've never ever I got my kids back when they were not babies anymore. I lost my kids when they were still babies, and I didn't get my shit together for a long time. And by the time I got sober, I was up for termination. And I had got my kids back and lost them, and got them back and lost them. And I never thought this was an option. Even when I got sober and I went through a 6-month treatment, by the time I graduated the treatment, they were like, the CPS was like, we're proud of you, but it's too late.
Right.
We're still going for termination. And I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I just feel blessed because I got the opportunity to, it was like they pushed court out for 3 weeks, and then that 3 weeks came and they pushed it out again and again. And, I remember though, this is what I remember. And this is what I want people to know is that, even if you think you can't do it, because I had worked for hard to get my kids back for a year, and then they started talking about giving me the kids back. And I remember telling Eric when I was doing overnights with them, and I was getting 2 overnights with them, and my kids are so active. If only I could express how active these little girls are. And I remember being so like worn out, and I just didn't know how to be a mom, right? And I was like, they were talking about giving the girls back, and I called Eric and I said, look, I don't know if I can even do this. I don't even know. I've worked this hard, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be a good enough mom for these girls. I don't know anything about being a mom. All I know is the streets and drugs and hustles and all this other bullshit. And I don't know anything about being a mom. I don't know how to put them to bed. I don't know anything to do. And I kid you guys not, that when I got the girls back, I went through like, I was having serious like anxiety and breakdowns and all of this. And now it's like the girls have got, we are bonded, you know, like when I met I tell people this all the time. I had to meet my kids again because I had left their life for years at a time. You know, I was gone for a year. I'd come back for a couple months, gone for a year. And I met my youngest, Kaden, and she was 2. And when she met me for the first time, she cried and she hid from me. And she didn't want anything to do with me. Nothing, right? And I was devastated. I was in treatment at the time, and the girls I was in treatment with, they mean the world to me. Those girls held me up when I remember meeting her and being devastated. Like, she doesn't like, my daughter doesn't like me anymore. She's scared of me. And the girls I was in treatment with, they just like, you know, huddled around me and were like, you're going to be okay. You're going to make it. You're going to be all right. And I never thought that I was going to be all right. I thought I was going to get sober and I wasn't going to ever get the kids back. And my kids now, it, they are always on me. They will
Yeah.
not, like, the bond is there, and they know, you know, where to go. Like, they constantly, I am just every day, I'm amazed. I'm so proud that I was able to get it together just in time because, you know, my girls, they didn't come out of this like unscathed. You know, they both, my 5-year-old especially, she struggles, you know, she's in kindergarten and she acts out sometimes, but you know, I do my best with her and I just pray she's going to get it together. But the great thing about recovery, about being a mom in recovery, is that I know if my kids ever struggle, they are going to be able to come to me. Like, there's
Yeah.
nothing I haven't been through in life. There's nothing, you know. And you know, none of the, you know, that it's probably going to be difficult too, like the, you know, the stuff I was able to get over on my mom about, like, there's no way. But
They're never going to be able to get over on you.
no, they were the kids in my neighborhood were talking about 7 minutes in heaven, and my daughter was like, "What is that?" I said, "Don't worry about it. Go in the house. I'm going to talk to everybody's mom. Everybody's mom gonna know about 7 minutes in heaven because I know about that game. Dang it!" But yeah, it's great to be able to say my case is over, and you know, the other thing that's good too is that I've seen quite a few people in recovery have their cases closed, and then for some odd reason, people fall off, right? It's like
Yeah.
it never for me with anxiety. I didn't have anxiety about it, but I think my family might have. been
Yeah.
worried, like, oh my God, what's going to happen when her case closes? Is she going to go back to using? And there was some point, I wish I could pinpoint when in my recovery I decided, I think it was right when I was in treatment, that it's either life or death for me. It's either I'm going to stay clean and live, or I'm going to use and die. Because, in my last, run, I almost died. I almost lost my leg. I almost permanently lost my kids. And, everything came to an end in my use this last time. So,
Yeah.
you know, being able to know or get that close to losing everything and having another chance at life and at being a mom and everything, it's pretty much cut and dry for me now, that it's either, life or death, so
Being a mom is the best though, and like now you get to
it
have
is.
that love from your babies. Like, I mean, I wasn't separated from Nathaniel that long, but it was long enough for it to be something I never want to experience ever again in my whole entire life. You know what I mean? Like, and I know exactly what you. When I first got Nate back, I didn't. I was freaking out. I cried every day for 6 months because
For real.
I didn't know how to be a mom. How do you be a
No,
mom and not be on methamphetamine? I'd never done that
exactly.
before. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
So,
and I remember like thinking that at one point when I had, I think I had Caden at this time, and thinking like, waking up every day and being like, I can't be a mom without being on meth at least, because how am
something
I
for
going to
some
be a mom?
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, how am I going to do it? And, eventually it just all kind of comes to you. And like, I haven't got the hang of everything. Like, I can't keep my house clean to save my life, but, it's clean. You know what I mean? It's messy,
There's no
but
roaches and you ain't got rats running around. Exactly.
no,
That's
none of
how
that.
I
But
feel.
yeah, these kids though, they'll
I'm
throw their clothes everywhere and their toys everywhere, and it's tricky, and there's parts of life right now that are frustrating, and I get frustrated because I wish my kids, the environment I live in right now isn't the best. I wouldn't suggest this for anybody who is like struggling in their recovery. Like, I feel I'm blessed because I'm very strong. I don't want to be overconfident, but I have a very clear decision every day, and I know I do not want to use. I don't have these temptations to use, because the community I live in right now is really up in the air. A lot of people use here, and it's just kind of crappy to be in recovery and want better for my kids, but live around
right.
people who still use. But and the other, I was
Wanting
thinking,
better
I
for
was
them.
telling you today too, like, I've been sleeping on a couch, and that's not fun. I wanted to get sober and not sleep on couches anymore, but it's okay. I want a safe space for my kids. They have a room, they have a bunk bed, they have their TV, they have a normal room for them, and that's just what motherhood calls for, is sacrifices. So I'll stay on this dang couch and do my thing over here. But there's these are very like these are problems that I would have wished for in my addiction. I would
Right.
have given anything for these problems that I have today. And I try not to forget about, it's easy to remember those funny stories and the good times and all of that. It's easy to remember that, but I try to remember all of the times that I would wake up crying, or, try and numb all of my feelings with drugs, because I did not want to think about the reality of my life. And, all of that, the desperation, the dangerous positions I put myself in, and all of that I try to keep at the forefront of my mind. I think we were talking today too, that another hard part is weight gain. Like, I didn't want to gain weight. I've always been skinny, and I've always not struggled with my weight, and not had
Right.
people ask me if I'm pregnant or this and that. And it's hard when I know how to get skinny in a day. I can just get high and get skinny again, but that's not an option anymore. It's just not. And you know, it's
I don't
easier
think
when
that people realize how it they don't understand. I think it's different for women when we get sober. Okay. And I don't think people understand because I'm the same way, girl. Like, I hate it when people comment about my weight. It's like I
Right,
see myself in the mirror. I know what I look
right,
like. Do you know what I'm saying? I
right,
know that I've gained weight since I got sober. But it's
right,
like, if they only knew what the option for me to be skinny was, then they would
right,
understand why I'm like okay with being a little chunky. I'd rather
right.
be chunky than strung out with a
Yeah,
needle hanging out of my arm. Like, I just don't think people understand. Like, when we're like that, we are like, it's it's the that's the reason why I started getting high on methamphetamine, was because I wanted to lose weight. And I
right,
knew that if I used stimulants that it would help me. I've always like had struggled with my weight. My mom's Mexican, my dad's Italian. We love to eat. It's just in my genetics, you know?
right,
And so oh, it drives me crazy when people like expect, you to be a certain way. And it's like, listen, I'm really so proud of how far I've come that I just don't give a fuck anymore. Like, my husband
right.
loves me. You guys love me. That's all I care about. All I care about is helping other people. And that's why we just got to not worry. Like, we are fine.
Right.
We're
Well, and that's
beautiful.
well, you are too, and that's the thing too is that I wish people could understand what some people. I wish people who were critical could understand what it's like to be in full blown addiction and not eat for days and not think about food for days. For years, I didn't think about food. So when I got clean, I mean, you could ask my old roommate in treatment. I was waking up in the middle of the night to eat. It was like as if my body was like, oh my God, she's feeding us. Let's hurry up and get
We
all the
got to get
food
it
we
all.
can. Yeah, because she's gonna take it away soon. She's gonna
Right?
take it away. Hurry up,
Right.
take all the food. And that's what was happening for me. And and I've developed unhealthy eating habits, but the point is I'm sober now. So all of that stuff is like just stuff, it's not it only becomes important. I've noticed it only becomes important when I start hearing it from people, and then I'm like, okay, wait, is and then I start, looking at myself. I didn't think I had any weight problems until I started hearing from people I was pregnant. And I just try to keep that so as surface level as it is, it's very surface level of the problems or the things that I want to acknowledge in my life. And if I'm
Right.
able to stay sober every day, and if I'm able to take care of my kids every day and put them first in my life, as far as there's a balance though with kids. I've noticed is that I can put everything into them and almost neglect myself, and then I also have to put everything into them but find a way to make myself a priority too, because
Right.
it's easy to distract with kids. I can just focus on them and forget about myself, but then I find myself in a really like low position, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why am I so depressed? And so I try to not the weight thing. I used to focus on it a lot, and then I realized I don't have a lot of control over it, so I kind of just push it away. And
Right. And you know
Eric
what?
loves me. He
When
doesn't give
you
me a
get
hard
more,
time about it. So
this
it's
is
like,
how I think about it. Okay. I'm almost 5 years sober. I'll have 5 years in July. Okay. I'm just like, I feel like I can work on that in a little, like, later on. I'm okay right now. I'm doing really good to stay focused on staying
yeah,
sober, doing my recovery channel, doing this. This is a big deal to me, you know,
yeah,
being consistent here, being consistent in my jobs, both jobs that I'm working now. Like,
yeah,
it's like, it's going to be okay. Everything is going to everything is going to fall into place like it has been as long as I keep doing the right thing. So,
right,
all I need to do is follow up with my doctor, make sure I get my thyroid checked this year, make sure I get my hepatitis C taken care of. And I truly believe that as my life continues to balance out, because see, I'm still on the journey of getting balanced out. Like, I'm only 5 years into my sobriety, and I'm working on a Suboxone taper and all kinds of other
Yeah.
stuff that's still going on in my life. I just got my medication for my mental health, my mental illnesses balanced out. So it's like, as these things start balancing out, my I think my weight will just balance out with it too, because I'm not
Yeah, that's
overeating. I'm not eating the whole refrigerator. Like, yeah, I like to eat, but I'm not like Amberlyn Reed or Chantel from Foodie Beauty fucking
right.
smashing food every day on a mukbang.
No.
Like, it's just my body catching up, just like it's your body catching up. And
Yeah.
as you get balanced out with your mental health, because that's a big thing, you got to get your mental health balanced out.
Right.
And as you get your program going and you get this like steady with your kids, now you got them back, you have them back, and everything starts evening out. I bet you the weight will just start falling off, because then you're going to be happy, you're going to feel stable, and then you're going to be wanting to go out and exercise, you're going to want to go out to the park. I'm telling you, like, I know this kind of stuff, because I've seen my friends who got sober before me who went through the same thing, and they went through this rocky period in their early recovery, and then they just balanced out, and now they're fine.
Yeah. See, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I don't know if I touched on this yet, but after when in the last couple of years since I've been clean, I did the medication for Hep C, and I got the Hep C taken care of. I've had to. This is what I've been working on now, is because I'm bipolar. I've been diagnosed for years, and the medication I'm on now was good in the beginning, but now I feel like I needed a balance of something different. So I'm seeing a psychiatrist, and the Suboxone that I'm on now, I see that same doctor that I saw in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He was, when I made it to treatment, he when I got out of detox, they told me, hey, your doctor sent over your Suboxone prescription. I didn't even He was on top of it. Like, when I got to treatment, he was there to support, and he's a great doctor. And I've been able to do or get a lot of things taken care of. There's still a lot on my list of things I want to do. I'm right now saving for my license. That's going to be a lot, but I'm saving for it. There's things I want to do in recovery that I have goals for, that I really am excited to, get knocked off the list. But the big ones, like closing this CPS case, that was a huge one for me. That's been years in the making, that, for a long time I didn't think was an option. I never thought I would ever get the kids back. So that's a huge one. But it's great. Recovery is something I never realized, the joys in life. Like, being in my addiction for all those years, it was so, soul sucking almost. Like, I just never realized what would be the point of getting clean in the first place. And once I got clean, I realized, like, I have a bunch of stuff, like, I have a life to live. And I'm just grateful. I used for a long, long time, but I'm grateful. There's another thing that is beautiful about recovery, is that I have siblings that I neglected. I'm the oldest, and I had younger brother and sister, and um, I have a relationship with them today. That's a whole nother thing that just wonderful. My mom, my dad, everybody. And I know some people aren't as fortunate. They don't like get their family back. And I'm blessed. I'm grateful that every family member um has came back. Everybody who means something, that who I missed in my addiction, all the people I missed, they're back in my life now. And I never would have thought. I definitely didn't think my mom I thought my mom was done with all of my BS. I thought she was over it, and she was never gonna forgive me. But they were all there when my case got closed. Everybody took it off work. Everybody was there to show love and support. Like, Eric is still in my life. Let me show you guys something really quick.
Hey, they want to hear the unicorn poem.
What?
They want to hear the unicorn poem.
Oh my gosh, my friends from treatment?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I wish I could remember it. What?
Let me see what her name is. I think it was A. Let me see.
Oh my God, Amy.
I think
wish
I think it's who it was.
Amy should just tell the damn poem. I can't remember that crap. It was funny
Amy
though.
Michelle. Yeah.
Amy was
Yes,
one of my best
she's been
friends.
here the whole time.
She's Amy's great. Amy's great. She's got some good amount of
Oh
clean time. You
shit.
should interview
Hold on,
Amy.
girl. I'm
Amy's
coming
great.
back.
Huh?
I totally disappeared for a second. Sorry about that, y'all. You didn't see
It's
that, did
okay.
you? I just totally clicked off the.
Look at this gift Eric got me for Valentine's Day. Look.
Oh,
Watch.
happy Valentine's Day, Kayla.
And it's a story of our life.
Oh my God.
Isn't it the
How
cutest?
cute.
It's
Did he
got
order that and they made it?
yes, and he wrote it all. And isn't it the
That
cutest?
is so cool.
Yeah, it was the sweetest. And it's not a short book. Look.
That is so thoughtful. Damn,
It
girl.
was the sweetest. But I wish I could remember that unicorn poem. You guys would crack up because here's the thing. When I got to treatment, I realized like I had been using since I was a kid, and I found a lot of comfort in like humor and just kind of being like, funny, and it was kind of how I used to be when I was a kid, but I felt like a lot of comfort in that. And I don't know, I think maybe I had a feeling that my kids loved unicorns too. And I used to tell people my spirit animal is a unicorn. And so we had to do these like really deep like therapy poems, and I wish I could remember it. It was just a funny poem, but it was all about unicorns. Everybody was doing theirs like on serious, like, like depression and, missing their kids. And mine was a unicorn poem. And it was, gosh, if I find the poem, because it's probably somewhere in my paperwork, I'll read it on my channel. I will. But I wish I could
Well,
see
your
the
story
chat. I don't
your
know.
story is a miracle. You're a miracle. You know that, right? Like your story is very good. Like especially for a lot of girls that are like going through the same thing with losing their kids and stuff. Like you're it's very inspiring. It's very inspiring to hear how like far you was bad in your addiction, girl. You was.
I
I
know.
mean, I know I was bad, but I think you might have been. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like how we compare stories and stuff. I
Right.
feel like you might have had me trumped a little bit. You know what I mean? Because like, damn, I don't know if I had my leg about to get cut off. I'm so vain, like in that way that I would have been like, I can't lose my leg. You know what I mean? But that just goes to show you, like I said, the difference between how strong addiction is and how, like for me, it was nothing to be in a coma, and for you, it was nothing to lose your leg. It was like, fuck it, let's just get it done with so I can get high. I think people need to hear more stories about how far we go down in our addiction because it shows how far we've came up. It's a lot of work turning your life around from doing that into changing totally, like absolutely 100% change.
Right.
We were people who were stealing and lying and cheating and robbing
All of
people and
all of
craziness.
it.
And now
Yeah,
we're
and that's
like,
why I relate a lot when I hear people say, I hit my bottom and I just kept digging, because
mm-hmm,
there was years ago that I thought I hit a bottom when I lost my oldest daughter. When I lost my oldest daughter, I thought I that was my bottom, and I never that was not a bottom. I just kept getting high and numbed it out, and
right.
um, I think too though that there's a lot to do. Support in early recovery is really important. This time for me, what was different for me is that anytime I had gone to treatment before, I wanted to do it my way. I was like, listen, I did you guys this little 30 days,
Yeah,
and now I'm gonna do this is what I want to do. I want to go move back to Tacoma, and I want to do, this and this. And I had built a relationship with this counselor that I had known, and she had said to me that the time before Like, are you going to try and do it your way or our way? And I said, well, I want to do it my way. And then this time, same counselor says, all right, Kayla, are you going to do it your way again? Or you want to try our
Right.
way? And
You
I was
have to
like, man,
surrender.
yeah, I had to.
You
And
have
I
to.
stayed up. I stayed like, it was like, 2 hours away from home, maybe more. And I stayed there for almost a year and a half until I left, and it was the best thing I could have ever done, because if I would have came, I've said this and I believe it. If I would have came to this place I'm at right now, right out of treatment, I don't believe that I would have made it, because this is
Right.
too much temptation for and if I hadn't built that foundation, I wouldn't have made it, and
Right. You're right.
and
It's
that's why
important
when
to
you
build a
say too
foundation.
that
You're doing so good though, Kayla. Listen,
uh-oh, you froze. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Dang it. Can anybody hear me? Let me see. Oh, you guys can hear me? Okay, I see the messages. So hopefully she comes back. I was gonna say this though, is that oh wait, is it? Okay, I was gonna say this. People used to tell me in my addiction, when Eric and I would come around, they would be like, you guys are too bad. Like, you guys are way too deep in this. And oh look, there she is. I was
sorry.
talking to him. I was telling them, look. When you said that I was, it's a miracle. I was telling them that when Eric and I were using, and we would come around, people would be like, "You guys are really bad. Like, you guys are way too deep in this." Like, we stood out like a sore thumb, because we were, you know, doing the extremes of everything, and
Right.
so it's a miracle that we're both sober today. And Eric works a good job, and I always tell people, when I see people like on Facebook that I used to use with and they're still using, like, if we can do it, anybody can do it. It's possible. I know it's possible to go from being that low and get your life back together. And it's so, every day is such, all the days of using blend together of just a nightmare, and it was like when people say your best day using won't even compare to your worst day sober. It's so true. I know it's like cliche, but it's the truth. Like, my worst day today, or now, is not even close to what it was. So I just know it's possible. I try to speak that to people I see still struggling. I try and explain or express that it's possible, and things
Right.
get better no matter what. Anybody I got sober with now, all the women I got sober with that are still sober today have beautiful lives. So it's possible, and it's so worth it.
You did a good job. This story was a good one, girl. You did a good job tonight. This is
Thank
our
you.
third time. We've done two other interviews, guys. So I'm gonna link all those videos underneath this video, and also go subscribe to Kayla's channel, because she has her own channel, from Street Life to Housewife. I will link it also. But this story, if you guys go watch story one, story two, and then story three, it all goes together, and you'll see this story. You did really good.
Thank you.
I enjoyed talking with you tonight, and I
Thank
hope
you.
that everybody will go over. Please go over and subscribe to Kayla's channel. Like, she's trying to build her channel. She's trying to put up content to help other people, and it just would be nice if y'all would go support her.
Thank you.
Right,
Thank
girl?
you. Yes. And I'm trying to be consistent. I'm not
Well,
making all these promises, but I promise I'm trying. So
you'll get
I am
there.
I'm getting there.
It
I'm
takes
getting
time.
there.
It's a
Yeah.
lot to commit to do these
It's
kind of things. Like
yeah.
I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this for real. And now but you know
Yep.
what, you can do it. Just take your time. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just do what works for you. That's what's the great thing about YouTube is you can make your own schedule. So whatever works for you, do that.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna
All
do it.
right, girl.
Cool.
I love you. I got to go throw my boy in the bath and get him ready for school tomorrow.
I know my kids are gonna be walking in the door anytime. I kept waiting. I was hearing them outside. Like, oh, they coming.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Hey, I love you, girl. Holler at
I
me
love
later,
you
okay?
too. Okay. Thank you.
I'm proud of you too.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. I hope y'all enjoyed Miss Kayla's story. She's an absolute inspiration. She's a fucking warrior, for real. Any of you guys are struggling with addiction or you just need some support, send me a text on the Real Talk Recovery phone line. It's 501-991-5149. I got to go wash Nate's butt. So I'll see y'all tomorrow, Monday night, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for our step study. And then Wednesday, we got Cindy Briggs coming on with 16 years sober to share her experience, strength, and hope. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye, y'all.